It's incredibly active on the landscape, and there is avalanche terrain that's used a lot there.
Tonight on KGW News, tragedy in the Cascades after an avalanche kills 2 backcountry skiers. Also tonight, we're keeping an eye on your forecast with gusty winds and heavy rain on the way for Wednesday. Then call it job loss whiplash.
We are absolutely concerned about electricity system reliability.
Why some federal employees at Bonneville Power are suddenly being brought back. Plus,
we read the guidance and we know we're compliant.
How Portland State appears to be standing up to a White House ultimatum. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. We begin at 11 with new details about a deadly avalanche in Central Oregon, one that authorities say claimed the lives of a couple while they were backcountry skiing. Alma McCarty is here with the update. Alma.
Yeah, David, the Central Oregon Avalanche Center indicates that the 2 were found buried in a storm slab avalanche, with officials telling us it likely happened Monday afternoon and that the skiers possibly triggered it themselves.
The 2 victims were out recreating. Their plan was to snowmobile into a area where they could then ski. They never returned home.
Early Tuesday morning, a search through the snow uncovered the bodies of 2 people in the Three Sisters Wilderness area near Broken Top Mountain. The Deschutes County Sheriff explaining his recovery teams returned to the location at daybreak.
Out of caution and safety, they chose to wait until sunlight so they could determine if that debris field was safe to enter to avoid another avalanche or kicking off an additional one.
Although officials haven't released their names, the Central Oregon Avalanche Center said the 2 were a couple, longtime residents of the area with a legacy that will live on. Both the center and the sheriff's office expressing condolences to loved ones.
Where the terrain in Oregon is maybe not as intense as the terrain you would see further north in the Cascades. That being said, there is significant avalanche terrain and there's a significant population, especially in the area around Bend.
The director of the National Avalanche Center, which forecasts for mountainous regions with a history of avalanche accidents, says it's been a busy season in Oregon and elsewhere.
This year, one of the reasons that we have, kind of complex conditions in the United States is that we've had several periods of cold, long periods of dry weather with snow on the ground. And in that case, you can build fairly weak snow at the surface. And then if you follow that with a big storm or some wind or something, then it can easily create that unstable structure.
Experts recommend always reading up on that day's potential hazards before heading out, bringing the necessary safety equipment for snowy backcountry areas, and knowing how to use it.
Make sure you have a partner and be safe because these things they're very real and they're very dangerous.
All a good reminder. So, Alma, what is the best place to check on those conditions?
Well, there are a couple of really good up-to-date web pages that are out there. The first one, of course, avalanche.org. That's going to give you a nationwide overview. But when you click on each area, it sends you to the regional page. So for Mount Bachelor and that area, the Central Oregon Avalanche Center will have that detailed forecast.
Appreciate your reporting on such a tragedy tonight. Thank you, Alma. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Savino tracking conditions in the Cascades tonight. Hi, Matt.
Hey, David, thanks very much. And to follow up on what Alma was just saying, for the Mount Hood area, there's the Northwest Avalanche Center, which goes from Mount Hood up to the Canadian border. And in Northeast Oregon, there's the Wallowa Avalanche Center, which does avalanche forecasting for the Wallowa Mountains, which are also very popular with backcountry skiers. The Central Oregon Avalanche Center had considerable risk in this area. You can see on the scale down here from that side of the Cascades or the east side of the Cascades through the Three Sisters and up towards Broken Top and up towards Mount Jefferson, right? Now, there was a picture taken not far from where this accident occurred. This is from Gabriel Kohler on Todd Ridge, which is near Todd Lake in that very same area, roughly the same elevation. These are the skis, and you can see this fracture. I know it's a little hard to see because the contrast isn't great, but that's a ski-triggered fracture, and that's what can happen when you have the conditions that the avalanche forecaster is talking about, which we had. We had very cold weather. In fact, on February 12th, right near Mount Bachelor is a weather station, recorded a temperature of -5 Today it was 33 there, so think about that. That's a 38-degree difference that the snowpack evolved through. Plus, there was heavy snow on top of that now. And by heavy, I don't mean just thick. I mean wet, heavy snow, very dense snow, 2 feet in the last couple days. So those are the conditions there. Now, we look at the snowpack around Oregon and around Washington in the Cascades. From the middle of January to the middle of February, we're doing quite well. We're about 122% of average at Meadows, 119% of average right now is 122% of average back in January. A little bit less up in the Washington Cascades, 95% to 86% of average up on Mount Baker, interestingly enough. But here in Oregon, our snowpack is doing great. Now, here's Portland, here's Bend, this is Pendleton up here. Every one of these blue dots indicates a weather station that is showing snowpack or snow water equivalent of 150% of average. If we put color to this and some labels on it, the Willamette Basin, 116% of average. Deschutes Basin, 126% of average. Southern Oregon, doing even better with our snowpack, all of which is great news for our water supply, but it does mean the avalanche conditions will continue. In fact, you look at our forecast for Mount Hood, we get another foot tonight and tomorrow, 2 to 4 inches on Thursday, then a high snow level, again, conducive to avalanche happening because of the heavy weight of that dense snow. It's a picture I took in Heather Canyon last March of a big avalanche that came down Heather Canyon. So they happen on Mount Hood too. Now, going into the spring, February, March, April, the forecast is for above average chances of heavy precipitation here in the Northwest. David?
Hey, thanks for all the context. Appreciate it, Matt. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, the White House has fired the U.S. Attorney for Oregon. Natalie White was a veteran of the Department of Justice for 20 years and was nominated to the position by President Biden in 2022. As U.S. Attorney, she focused on protecting Oregon's youth, combating fentanyl dangers, and strengthening partnerships with law enforcement. This comes as the White House calls for the removal of all Biden-era top prosecutors. In Washington, D.C., Lori Chavez-Dreamer's Senate confirmation hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. The former GOP Congresswoman and Happy Valley mayor is the president's pick for Labor Secretary. Chavez-Dreamer will have to win over Republicans who are skeptical about her labor-friendly record and Democrats who believe Trump's agenda is hostile to unions. That Senate committee hearing is set for 7 a.m. our time tomorrow. We'll be streaming it live on our TV app, that is KGW+. And a federal judge has declined to block Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, from accessing data at 7 federal agencies and firing federal employees. 14 states, including Oregon and Washington, had requested a restraining order. They argued Musk has unchecked authority and is violating the Constitution's appointment clause. The judge said the states failed to show they'd suffer imminent irreparable harm, though she did express some concern over DOGE's actions. New at 11, we've learned some federal employees who just lost their jobs at the Bonneville Power Administration are now apparently getting them back. Catherine Cook's in the newsroom with that update. Hi, Catherine.
Hey, David. It's been an emotional roller coaster for employees there. Since January, more than 400 positions have been cut at BPA, either through rescinded job offers, resignations, or layoffs. Now we've learned around 30 people who most recently lost their jobs have them back.
Amid hundreds of jobs lost at the Bonneville Power Administration, a fraction of affected employees are getting them back. That's according to a source familiar with the BPA. Over the weekend, more than 100 new employees were fired. But KGW learned shortly after that about 30 employees were told they'd be keeping their jobs. That source tells KGW the reason is those positions could impact reliability or other important functions of BPA. The Portland-based federal agency owns and runs 75% of the high-voltage transmission in the region and provides 30% of the power. Experts have expressed concerns over the cuts, noting they include jobs such as electricians, scientists, and cybersecurity experts, which cannot easily be replaced.
We are absolutely concerned about electricity system reliability with the workforce cuts that are happening at BPA.
Scott Sims is executive director of the Public Power Council, which represents BPA customers.
These are very specialized positions where we're seeing folks that are leaving, sometimes in an entire shift of folks. So that means that we'll need to have Bonneville cover those shifts with other personnel, and that's just stretching them even further.
It's unclear which of the 100-plus jobs most recently cut were brought back. A spokesperson for BPA declined to comment. In January, the BPA said about 200 workers resigned after accepting a federal buyout. And earlier this month, 90 job offers were rescinded.
All of it part of President Trump's effort to shrink the size of federal government. It's worth noting the BPA is a nonprofit that receives no money from taxpayers. It's self-funded by selling power at the wholesale level to utilities.
The BPA also confirmed it shut down its culture office to be in compliance with President Trump's order cracking down on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. David, back to you.
A bit of a 180 on those rehires there. Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate the follow-up. Hey, meanwhile, schools and universities across the country are responding after the Trump administration told them they have 2 weeks to eliminate diversity initiatives or risk losing federal funding. That includes Portland State, where leaders say they have reviewed the order and that they are in compliance. Officials tell us they do not expect to change any programs based on the memo, which told institutions to stop using racial preferences as a factor in admissions, financial aid, and hiring.
I think if we had any race restrictive programs, we do not restrict any of our programs. All of our programs are open. And so I think illegal discrimination would be restricting a program or initiative or anything to a particular racial group. And that is illegal.
At the K-12 level, both Portland Public and the Beaverton School Districts told KGW they are awaiting further instructions from the state education department before they do anything next. Well, a former veterinarian from Oregon City has now been sentenced to life in prison in a stalking and murder case. In 2023, Stephen Milner ambushed and killed an Intel employee in a company parking structure. Milner had been having an affair with the victim's wife, who worked in his office as an employee. The relationship ended when her husband found out. Milner then stalked and harassed the victim, Kenneth Fandrich, before eventually killing him. Well, to new information tonight on the Delta flight that crashed while landing Monday in Toronto. Canadian investigators say they have now recovered the black boxes, the flight data, and the cockpit voice recorder there, and they are now being analyzed. All 80 passengers and crew on board survived, most of them walking away when that plane flipped over and caught fire just seconds after touching down. Airport officials have not revealed much, and transportation safety investigators have yet to hold a media briefing. Of the 21 people treated for injuries, 19 have now been released from the hospital.